Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
From the beautiful city of Abuja, it is my pleasure to welcome you to another edition of Money Radio from Leadership Podcast. You're on to the energy segment of the program. If you are in Abuja, I'll say a warm good afternoon. If you are in other occidental parts of the world, especially in the diaspora, we say good cold morning. So, we are discussing an issue today, and it's on the Petroleum Industry Act. The topic is extension of PIA, that is the Petroleum Industry Act, subsidy removal, the pros and the cons. Nigerians were awakened to a, should I say, rude shock. It's not a rude shock because it's a pleasant thing to
many Nigerians.
Yeah, it was a surprise. Let's say it was a surprise that the Petroleum Industry Act, or subsidy removal to be specific, subsidy removal has been extended by 18 months. Now, many people are saying many things about subsidy removal. People give it a political connotation, some people economic connotation, some people social connotation. What are the issues? And that's what we are going to discuss today on Money Radio. With me in the studio is our usual face, the delectable Mr. Anthony Uka. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's like you are happy about this topic. We'll talk about it. My name is Kate Hammond, and I'm your host. So, sir, subsidy removal has been extended. Some of us may do as if we are angry. Why not remove this subsidy once and for all, so that Nigerians will have peace, and we'll see social development, we'll see economic development, we'll see infrastructural development. But some people inside are happy.
I know you are one of them. You are very.
Can you look in my heart?
Yeah, because I know you complained a lot about what is going to, the kind of hardship it was going to
inflict on
people. So
what are the issues now? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Let's discuss this.
Well, like you rightly pointed out, it was a surprise to me, sort of, though not so much as a surprise, because though I had been wondering how the magic, so to say, that the administration.
You may not forget. I'm actually not surprised. You may forget, but I have said in the studio that I bet my salary that subsidy removal will not take place this year. You may forget. But for those of you who were thinking about chopping my salary, I know you were thinking about it. You don't lose.
Anyway, so on Monday morning, that was what it started making the rounds. At first, I was like, is this some kind of a joke or what? But it eventually was confirmed that the implementation of the subsidy removal had been deferred, and not just deferred for a short time, deferred in such a way that it is completely taken out of this current administration. It is now the headache of the next administration. So
I like the way leadership put it. The leadership headline. I like the way they put it. Say booby trap. Yes.
Booby trap for the next president. So I'm telling you. So it did not just extend it by some months, that will still put it within this administration, but it moved it by 18 months to the next administration, so that it doesn't even become an issue. More so, this is we are moving into the thick election period, and of course it would have counted so much against the ruling party, even as much as it would have inflicted so much pains on the masses, being that the government, the country as a whole, was just not ready for removal of fuel subsidy.
I like the way you put it. The country was not ready. You know, I have my personal carouse with this issue of subsidy removal. It's not a Nigerian thing. Nigerians are not used to. Look, let's face the fact. In every country, including the West, I'm talking about, in fact, the West,
Yes.
mainly the West, this issue of subsidy.
Mm.
I'm not talking about fuel subsidy,
Fuel subsidy.
but when it comes to subsidy,
General.
they practice it very well, more than
Of course, even more than Nigerian.
when it comes to food subsidy,
Yes.
agriculture,
Yes, health.
the amount they invest on one cow is more than the amount they invest. I'm talking about a place like the USA. The amount that the US government invests in one cow, this malu we are seeing here, the amount they invest in one cow is probably more than the amount they invest in human beings, in each human being. So when it comes to subsidy removal, this is the part of it. This is the part of subsidy that actually affects Nigerians. We don't subsidize. Okay, food is rice. It's subsidized. Is rice subsidized? No.
No, it's the production of rice at the anchor borrowing level. Yes. You can say subsidized, but
they have to pay back.
They have to pay back.
So it's not subsidized. So this is the only thing that is subsidized for Nigerians.
And why is
and
it
electricity?
And why is it subsidized? It's because it's virtually the largest, the biggest of Nigeria's natural resources.
Yes.
So if we can't have it cheap, what then will Nigerians have cheap? So, and the issue of subsidy, you know, it extends beyond just pumping all this money into it.
Yeah.
If the local refining capacity had been on ground, working effectively, Nigerians wouldn't even, the Nigerian government wouldn't have to pump so much money into paying for subsidy. So it's like it's been their own paying for their own inefficiency in managing that a very critical need for the nation.
You know, the common man shouldn't have to suffer like that. I was thinking about this subsidy issue. When you remove subsidy, in the long run, it is good for the country because the issues of infrastructure, social welfare, that is building more hospitals and schools, you can pump more money into that, which the Bretton Woods institutions have stated, and I agree with them in the long run. But in the short run, if this government had removed or lived up to the words that they want to remove subsidy, it would affect the economy negatively, and this is why I say it. We are already complaining about inflation. Inflation is high. If you remove subsidy from fuel, everything else goes up. You know, people may say, what about diesel? What about kerosene? We don't need kerosene. We have alternative to kerosene now. And who uses diesel?
How many? Is only the big
companies. Because the big companies, they use the diesel to run their big generators. The banks, these are the people that use diesel. But this issue of gasoline, petroleum, everybody is affected.
Yes.
Now, if you remove subsidy on petroleum, everything else in the country will increase in terms of price. Everything else will increase. And if you look at it, the things that we can afford, you talk about food, rice, gari, yam, the staples, the things that we can afford, at least that we can still afford.
Yes.
Because some people are right now
unable to afford even those
things that we're talking about. Yeah. But at least people are managing to make ends meet, even though the ends are not meeting, they are just close. But people are at least managing. Maybe you can smell the food if you can't eat it, but at least people are managing. If you remove subsidy and the price of these basics go up again, it puts it beyond the reach of the common man. Yes. And what happens? production, for example, rice production,
Mhm.
people who are producing rice may not be able to sell as much rice because
Yeah.
people will not be able to afford it.
To afford it.
The same with the yam, the same with the, and so generally production may not, you may produce, but you may not actually meet, or that supply and demand may not meet because the affordability will be that factor that will distinguish them.
Yeah.
And when it happens, the economy will naturally actually, the economy will in fact there will be growth will actually plummet.
Of course. Yeah.
Because if you produce and you can't sell,
Mm-hmm.
that is
Of
an
course,
issue.
it means that they will not be able to keep on producing.
And that means the economy will actually,
Yes.
generally,
Yeah.
they will begin to go down.
Then we will look at it again in terms of transportation. At the minimum wage that many state governments are not even paying.
And that transportation issue
Yes.
will actually cause the price of things to go up.
And
when things go up like that, people will not be able to
afford it. And the Nigerians that are still struggling to go about Nigeria, we don't even have a viable public transportation system.
Yes.
Where we can say that, okay, if the private transport operators jack up their prices, that government can still maintain it at a certain level that people can afford.
Yes.
So if a subsidy had been removed without this kind of basic
provision of public goods
of public transportation system,
yes,
the people would have suffered a whole lot. And even this offices, people won't actually, many people who won't be able to go to their offices on a month-by-month basis.
Exactly. Now, look at it from another perspective again. We don't have adequate electricity.
Yes.
In Abuja here, we can say, okay, there is, maybe you can, some places you receive 12 hours, some places 8, some places 14.
Mm-hmm.
The place I live, we receive power for up to 23 hours, if not 24 hours some days. I can boast about that. I can beat my chest. But
lucky you.
Yes, lucky me, and that is it because that is the place where I live. But many other places they can't afford it. So when it comes to the cost of electricity again, mind you, out of Nigeria's, okay, they are just like the other day we were calculating, you and I in this studio. The amount of electricity that is actually being produced by the public, by that is the GENCOs and the
generation company.
Yes, let's say the national grid. It's just like 1 or 2%, or less than 5%. Less than 5%. So the rest is actually generated by us. When we go home at night, and we want to maybe watch television, or is this same fuel we are going to use?
Fuel because the smallest as my neighbor, it does not use diesel.
It does not use diesel.
It uses
yeah. So when you talk about you and I, we know how much we earn at our level. If you and I maybe say we buy a fuel for 1,000 naira a day, and when we get home, fuel we can get maybe 5 to 6 liters of fuel for 1,000 naira. Imagine that amount we getting it at, after removing subsidy, we get it for just maybe 1,000 naira. We give us maybe it's because people are thinking that it may be up to 300 naira per liter.
The governors are even proposing that it should be it shouldn't be at least a minimum of $1 to a liter.
You mind them?
$1
that means it's a 500. That
Nigeria is the country, the only country where petrol is not sold for up to $1.
Can you imagine? Because the taxpayers are paying their bills. Don't mind those people.
So you can imagine where it will put the price of fuel.
So if we go by assuming these people get that, they have their way, and we are buying 1 liter of fuel for 500 naira. 500 naira for 1 liter of fuel. That means you and I, with our 1,000 naira, which we get for maybe 5 liters or 6, it will be just like 2
liters.
So how do we manage? So look, this thing. Let's take a breather. We'll come back. We'll discuss. a little more on it. So let's take a break, listeners, and we'll come back. We'll discuss the issue more.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back, viewers. You're still on to Money Radio, the energy segment of the program from Leadership Podcast. Still in the studio to discuss the issue is Mr. Anthony Uko, and I'm your host, Case Hammond. So, Mr. I can see that in your heart, your heart is beating. You're filming over the issue, but we'll talk about it later. I was. You haven't said something about how you feel about this subsidy removal. Are you happy or you're sad? You don't want to.
I'm in the middle.
Okay, now being in the middle, we talked about the social and economic implications of subsidy removal before we went on the break.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some of the economic drawbacks that we are going to suffer, because this thing has been extended by 18 months right now.
Yes.
18 months means is the next government, because this government has just about 16 months.
15 months. Very well.
So it's the next government that is going to. Hey, man, that leadership headline yesterday, I enjoyed it so much. Buhari booby traps in this government. Who won't carry bad name?
Well, so like you've said, it has economic implications
for the country. Yeah.
Yes, on the social aspect, we can say that it's a welcome development for the masses, because the all the mechanism that should have cushioned the effect on the people were not on ground.
Mhm.
So the extension on that level, it's okay. However, the first huge impact that we would see on in terms of spending and funding the economy is the impact on um, funding the subsidy for this year.
Yeah.
This year, with the trend we are seeing in oil prices, it's already very obvious that much more, higher amount will be required to fund subsidy this year.
Yes.
As at now, oil hits 90 naira.
$90.
Yeah, $90. Sorry, a barrel, and with that has put the landing cost of petrol at 282 naira to the liter.
Yeah.
So with that, already analysts have predicted Nigeria will need up to 2.5 trillion to fund subsidy this year. But even at that, the NNPC has gone on to request for 3 trillion naira.
Wow. So with this request now, I will come to one issue that people are anxious, are having concern about. And that is, people are attaching this issue to elections next year. That the ruling party wants to, find a way to fund their election campaign. But we will come to that if that has any merit at all. If there is any reason to think that way. But before we go to that, I was wondering just now as you were talking, probably the federal government is having some close contact with people like Dangote. If the Dangote refinery comes on board and we still have 2022 as a promise, this thing has not been, there would have been promises. We're talking about 2016, 2017. Some people say who have been observing say we have had up to 8 promises now. But we know that COVID-19 actually affected the coming on of Dangote refinery. Now, the latest promise has been that we will have Dangote refinery come on board in this year. So, if Dangote refinery comes, then the subsidy removal, no, not subsidy removal, but at least the import bill, yeah, that one will be a thing of the past. And if that is done, the government can even decide to subsidize production. That is to sell. I don't know. Some of these things have trade implications. Trade implications in the sense that, but Venezuela was doing it, and some Arab countries, even Saudi Arabia, they do it. They actually subsidize production for their own people. But those are places where they have border controls. But if that happens, if Dangote refinery comes on board, then likely we will see, if the government wants to remain in the good books of Nigerians, we will see production, subsidizing production instead of subsidizing consumption. That means selling to Aliko Dangote, Aliko Dangote refinery at a lower price, lower than the international price, and then he could sell it at a subsidized. That is, government is subsidizing in a way, subsidizing production. If that is not done, then that means the country will actually have to go a borrowing again.
Yes.
And going a borrowing is going to have long-term implications.
In tightening the debt news
Yes.
on the country.
Many analysts have said that although the debt to GDP is inching close to 40, which is not bad, but the revenue aspect.
The revenue aspect has always been the issue. Yeah, even besides having to fund the subsidy itself, we look at what this capitulation has done to the investors' confidence in the country. Nigeria had turned a corner.
Yes.
Nigeria had turned a corner, bringing about a major reform in the oil and gas industry that we had looked forward to it bringing in more investment, the much desired investment into the oil and gas industry to be able to bring up many of this the infrastructure that we're talking about, putting it on ground, being able to maximize the use of gas that we have and all that. With this now, every progress that seemed to have been made, everything will go back to zero. So at the end of the day, the country is starting all over again, because it's been deferred for 18 months. By the time the next administration comes on board, who knows what will happen? The next president can come on board and decide, I think there are some places I don't agree with this bill, PIA. I think I need to send it back to the National Assembly, and it drags on, and it may even drag the country back into the era of PIB.
That's I want to booby trap you. I don't want to engage myself involved in politics, so I'm going to booby trap you. Does this issue we are discussing have any political connotation, or does it look to you like some people have accused the federal government, specifically the PDP, have accused the federal government, that is the APC government, of reverting back to this era of PIB, as you may put it, because they want to find a way to funnel money to fund their campaigns. Now, does this have any merit? I'm booby trapping you.
Why are you booby trapping? For me, I would say the NNPC is already incorporated. So,
and as a matter of fact, PDP people and APC people are all in government. These are the two big parties.
Yes.
So one is ruling, but no, it's not that the other one is just
just completely off the scene.
They are seeing what they are doing.
They are seeing.
They know what they are doing.
They are there in the house.
Why should one side be accusing the other side of this?
Well, that's what they do to each other. When PDP was in power, APC did that, if not worse. So, well, there may be some merit, and it brings back that era of lack of transparency in the operations of the NNPC.
Yes.
So that's where they may have some merit to say maybe that is what this is all about. But I'm not in the minds of the government to know what their real motives are for this. Because if I don't know if they really have the plight of the masses so much at heart like that they just if they wanted to go ahead, if it was going to favor them, the government now, they would have gone ahead whether or not it will affect the masses so much. So besides the fact that they feel their party will not be the popular party if they do that at this threshold of election.
You touched on something, just like let's give it a 1 minute discussion. You touched on something. Does this not have an implication on investor confidence, international investor confidence?
Of course, to a very significant extent. It has, that's what I was saying earlier, that with this now, all the investors that were getting set to say, oh, okay, reconsidering, after the long drawn out process that it took for us to have the PIA eventually on board, the investors had lost confidence. So they were just beginning to, make plans to come back. And then we see this policy somersault all over again. So they will just, they will definitely lose confidence. And only God knows what will happen the next time, because they are like, oh, they are at it again. What will happen? So they will be very reluctant to make up their minds in a hurry next time when the PIB comes back.
Which is a bad precedent also.
Yes.
You can bet that this issue we are discussing is going to be discussed in the papers for the next 6 months, if not 1 year. In fact, it will be up to the next...
for the entire duration of this the extension, you would see that the discourse is so exhaustive. The aspects are too... It will keep coming up.
You can bet this will not be the last time we are discussing this issue in this studio. So some other angles will come up and we'll discuss that in this studio, God willing. So let's draw the curtains on the discussion today, because our time is up. This is how it has been on Money Radio, the energy segment of the program. It's been nice having you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, our producers, for being there for us and for making sure that the picture quality is beautiful and everything is going on fine. Thanks to you, mostly those of you who are our loyal followers, and those of you who are following us for the first time. We say thank you. We are here because of you. We appreciate you so much. I've been your host, Keith Hammond. Next time on Money Radio, we'll discuss another topic. I encourage you to stay tuned. COVID-19 is real. Go and get your jab. Observe COVID-19 protocols. Have a nice day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.